Let's get started with part 1 of today's math lesson. Today's lesson is from Unit 7 and it's lesson number 8. The topic of our lesson is division measurement number stories. Our lesson objective says students should be able to use division strategies to solve various measurement problems. If you don't already have pencil and paper handy, get that now because it's time for mental math. For the first part of mental math, they tell us that 1 minute is the same as 60 seconds. So if 1 minute is the same as 60 seconds, how many seconds are there in 2 minutes? Write that on your paper. If 1 minute is 60 seconds, 2 minutes is how many seconds? For 2 minutes, you should have said it is equal to or equivalent to 120 seconds. You could just take your 60 seconds and double it for 2 minutes. Now, keep in mind, 1 minute is 60 seconds, so how many seconds are there in 5 minutes? We know 1 minute is 60 seconds, 2 minutes is 120 seconds, 5 minutes is how many seconds? Pause your video now if you need a minute to figure it out. Then turn your video back on when you're ready to check your work. For 5 minutes, you should have said it is equal to 300 seconds. Let's try one more. If 1 minute is 60 seconds, 2 minutes is 120 seconds, 5 minutes is 300 seconds. How many seconds are there in 10 minutes? If you need to pause your video now to figure it out, do it. Then turn it back on when you're ready to check your answer. A clue on this one though, if you know that 5 minutes is 300 seconds, 10 minutes is double 5. So you could probably just double your 300 to find out how many seconds there are in 10 minutes. You should have said 10 minutes is equal to 600 seconds. Those were all pretty easy. Let's try a couple that are just a little more challenging. This time we're talking about meters and centimeters. Think about that meter stick I have in the classroom. 1 meter or 1 meter stick is equivalent to 100 centimeters. If 1 meter is 100 centimeters, how many centimeters are in 5 meters? If 1 meter is 100 centimeters, 5 meters is, you should have said 500 centimeters. You just had to take your number of meters and multiply it by 100. If 1 meter is 100 centimeters, 5 meters is 500 centimeters. 10 meters is how many centimeters? Write that one on your paper. You should have said 10 meters is the same as 1,000 centimeters. Now, if 1 meter is 100 centimeters, 5 meters is 500 centimeters, 10 meters is 1,000 centimeters. How many centimeters are there in 20 meters? Pause your video if you need time to figure it out and write your answer on your paper, then turn it back on when you're ready to check. You should have said 20 meters is the same as 2,000 centimeters. we're going to do some more converting like that in today's number stories. Let's move on to mental math. Math message. The story today for math message says, Emily poured an entire 2-liter container of apple juice into 8 separate glasses. Each glass held the same amount. How many milliliters did each glass hold? Before you solve this problem, notice what they're asking. It says she has a 2-liter container. That just means this one bottle holds 2 liters. She doesn't have 2 separate bottles. It's like one of the big plastic bottles of Sprite or Coca-Cola. That's called a 2-liter. So she has one container that holds 2 liters of liquid, and she's pouring it into 8 different glasses. Each glass held the same amount. How many milliliters did each glass hold? That word each is telling us that she's going to be dividing up that juice into 8 separate glasses. So you're going to need to divide. The trick here is realizing they gave you the juice in liter units, but they want your answer in milliliters. So you're going to have to do some converting. I want you to pause your video now, see if you can solve this problem, then turn it back on when you're ready to check your work. Remember, 1 liter is 1,000 milliliters. So if this is a 2-liter bottle, how many milliliters is that? Think about that when you're solving. Write down each step that you need to solve to get to your final answer, because there's more than one step. Once you have your final answer, turn the video back on so we can check our work on the next slide. All right, let's check our work for the math message. In the math message, they told us that there was a 2-liter bottle of juice, and then they gave you the clue down at the bottom to help you remember that 1 liter is the same as 1,000 milliliters. So hopefully you did some converting. Hopefully you converted 2 liters to milliliters. Remember, if 1 liter was 1,000 milliliters, that means 2 liters equals how many milliliters? I hope you said 2,000 milliliters, or ml. So hopefully that was your first step, to take your 2 liters times 1,000 to get your milliliters. But after that, what did you have to do? We know that Emily from the math message has 2,000 milliliters of juice, but she's dividing it or sharing it into 8 separate glasses. So hopefully your second step was to take that 2,000 milliliters and divide it by 8, because she had 8 glasses. And then that would tell us how many milliliters of juice would go into each glass. Now, when solving this problem, remember to ask yourself, how many times can 8 go into just 2? Well, 8 can't go into 2, so you need to add the next digit and ask yourself, how many times can 8 go into 20? 8 can go into 20 2 times, but then there are those 2 zeros left over. that you have to add on to your partial quotient out to the side. So this is saying that 8 can go into 2,000 at least 200 times. Now we have to take our 200 times 8. Well, I'm not sure what 200 times 8 is, but I know that 2 times 8 is 16. Then I add on my 2 zeros from the 200. Then I can subtract. When I subtracted 2,000 minus 1,600, I got 400 left over. And that's my new dividend. And I have to now ask myself, how many times can 8 go into 400? And I'm not really sure. I know 8 cannot go into just 4, but 8 can go into 40. 8 can go into 40 5 times. And then there's that 0 left over. So this is saying 8 can go into 400 at least 50 times. Then I multiply my 50 times 8. 5 times 8 is 40. Then the 0 on the end of 50, then subtract. And we should have nothing left over. Then we add our two partial quotients. And we have a total of 250 with no remainder. So we should say that each glass holds a total of 250 milliliters. But let's look at how we could write that as in like a number sentence. The first thing we had to do was convert our liters to milliliters. So the first thing we did was take 2 times 1,000 because there are 1,000 milliliters in every liter. First we did that. Then we took that answer, and since we did it first, I'm going to put it in parentheses. Then we took that answer and we divided it by 8 because there were 8 glasses. So first step, 2 liters times 1,000 to convert to milliliters. And when we solved that, we said that was actually 2,000 when we solved it. Then we took that answer and divided it by 8 because there were 8 glasses. And then in the end, we said our answer was 250 milliliters, or ml. That's what could be held in each glass. So if you had 250 milliliters as your answer, you are right. And we're going to do more problems like that in part 2 of